Welcome my young friends. Today I will share with you the story of an ancient civilization that has emerged from the dusty pages of time immemorial. As you listen, close your eyes and take a journey back in time to the land of the Hittites. On this journey we will learn how an empire founded in the fertile lands of Anatolia, among the sky-piercing mountains and deep valleys, rose and disappeared into the foggy pages of history. Who has come and who has passed through these lands? When the sun was at its brightest, the Hittites were an empire that challenged the gigantic pyramids of Egypt. The shouts of soldiers fighting on the battlefields, the political intrigues whispering in the palaces, the prayers echoing in the temples dedicated to their gods, they all became part of this land. Today, as we tell you the story of this great civilization, you will see not only the rise of an empire, but also how, throughout history, humanity has fought for the same victories, dreamed the same dreams, and made the same mistakes over and over again. So sit back, relax, and join me on a journey back thousands of years to the ancient land of the Hittites. The story of an empire born under the watchful eye of the gods, an empire that ruled and eventually disappeared into the depths of history. Here we go. Now I will take you, my young friends, to the land where the Hittite civilization was born and grew up. This is no ordinary geography. It is a piece of land in the heart of Anatolia, surrounded by mountains, fertile plains, and deep valleys. It was in this rich and diverse land that the Hittites took root and laid the foundations of their civilization. Close your eyes and imagine there are mountains rising in front of you, their peaks touching the clouds. These mountains have been both a shield and a challenge for centuries. Behind the mountains, green valleys stretch and fertile rivers flow between them. These rivers were both the lifeblood of the Hittites and fed their trade routes. These roads flowed like blood vessels connecting the empire from east to west, north to south. The Hittites had settled in the center of Anatolia. The cool waters of the Black Sea to the north, the warm breath of the Mediterranean to the south, the deep blue sea of the Aegean to the west, and the mysterious world of Mesopotamia to the east. In the middle of Anatolia, where steppes and forests embrace each other, the Hittites took advantage of the rich natural resources and interacted with the civilizations around them. This geography played the biggest role in shaping the Hittite civilization. Now, let us take a look at this great book we call history. The Hittites came on the scene around the 17th century BC. We call this period the Old Kingdom. The first kings had declared themselves as the rulers of this land and surrounded their cities with strong walls. But this was just the beginning. As the kingdom grew stronger and expanded over time, it began to play a bigger role on the stage of history. Then comes an interim period, like a dark chapter in history. We refer to this period as the Middle Kingdom. At that time, the lands where the Hittites lived were not very peaceful. Rebellions, civil wars, fights for the throne. But they say that every dark night has a morning. After this turbulent period, the Hittites once again rose from the ashes. And here is the New Kingdom period, the golden age of the Hittites. Great kings, victories, and treaties. All these periods form the rich historical texture of the Hittite civilization. In the center of Anatolia, this powerful civilization dominated all the lands around it over time. Cities, walls, palaces. Each became a part of this grand narrative of history. But remember, dear friends, the wheels of history are always turning. This great civilization also came to an end one day. But the traces left by the Hittites still live on in the depths of the land, in the inscriptions engraved on the stones, in the ancient cities waiting to be discovered. And we are here to tell their great story. Let's follow the traces left by the Hittites step by step in this ancient land. Yes. Now I will take you deep into the pages of history, the long, arduous migration journey of the Hittites towards Anatolia. Moving through dark, stony paths and steep mountains, this people once set out from distant lands. Their aim was to find fertile land, put down roots and make a new home. Even today, it is as if I can hear the steps of this people, their hopeful looks, and their dreams for the future among those pebbles. Although the exact homeland of the Hittites is unknown, most historians believe that they came from the Caucasus or north of the Black Sea. Their migration routes were long and arduous, but they were chasing the fertile lands of Anatolia. At the time, this land was not yet ready to host a great empire. But the Hittites were determined to build a civilization of their own and write a new history. Every mountain, river, and plain they encountered during their migration made them stronger. When the Hittites entered Anatolia, they chose fertile regions such as today's Kızılırmak Basin, because these regions were both suitable for agriculture and strategically located. Imagine them establishing their first settlements on the banks of a river under the morning sun. The Hittites, once a nomadic people, were now tied to the land and had begun to plant their roots deep into Anatolia. Early settlements often developed on such sheltered and rich soils. Their first villages were equipped with simple but functional structures, but each of these settlements was the cornerstone of what would later become an empire. Sites such as Alakahoyuk and Hattusa are among the best known of these early Hittite settlements. These settlements not only offered fertile land for agricultural activities, but were also strategically located for defense. Hattusa, perhaps the most important of these settlements, would later become the capital of the Hittite Empire. However, this capital was only a simple settlement at the time. It was surrounded by steep cliffs, and they managed to live here despite the harsh conditions of nature. Every morning when the sun rises, it strikes the stones of the first structures built by the Hittites, reminding us of what once lived here. Migrations and settlements were not easy, but the will of this people made them a strong element of Anatolia. The Hittites began to shape this land not only physically but also culturally. Over time, they fused with the peoples here, adopting their customs and incorporating their own culture. And so the Hittites, once a nomadic people, began to build a world of their own in Anatolia. This new world was based on Anatolia's fertile soil, its strong walled cities, and the courage of its people. As the Hittites took root in this land, they began to sow the seeds of a civilization that would later become a great empire. Now let's take a moment to go deeper into this story. Picture in your mind those first Hittite settlers, how they lived, what hopes they carried, what hardships they endured. Because this is not only the story of the Hittites, but also of humanity. They left the traces of a brave people echoing in the silent pages of history. Ah, yes, once upon a time in the fertile lands of Anatolia, a power was born quietly and deeply. This is the story of the Hittites stepping onto the stage of history. They had not yet attracted the attention of the whole world, but there was an energy, a desire inside them, ready to erupt like a volcano. And the person who ignited this energy was Murshili, one of the greatest leaders in Hittite history. You may not have heard of him before, but the steps he took changed the destiny of the Hittites and shaped the history of Anatolia, and even beyond. As a young prince, Murshili felt the responsibility of his future reign on his shoulders. At that time, the Hittites were not yet a powerful kingdom in the full sense of the word, but they were beginning to find their place among the other peoples and kingdoms around them. They needed a decisive leader to survive and grow stronger in the harsh and rugged geography of Anatolia. Murshili responded exactly to this need. While establishing his kingdom, he first succeeded in uniting and strengthening his own people. At that time, the biggest danger for the Hittites was internal strife and intertribal disputes. To solve these problems, Murshili first brought his own people together. Like a sage, he listened carefully to each tribe, solved their problems, and united them around a common goal. He designated Hattusa as the center of the Hittite kingdom and started to strengthen it. Hattusa was surrounded by steep cliffs and had strong defenses, but Mershili did not rely only on this sheltered structure. He also succeeded in turning Hattusa into a center of culture and trade. In this way, he established relations with other surrounding kingdoms, opened trade routes, and created new opportunities for the Hittites. However, Mershili's ambitions were not limited to his own kingdom. He wanted to gain a bigger foothold for the Hittites. So he turned his eyes to regions outside Anatolia. His first major conquests were against the powerful city-states in Mesopotamia. The once mighty cities of Aleppo and Babylon were conquered by Mershili's armies. Imagine that one morning the majestic gates of Babylon vibrated with the heavy footsteps of the Hittite armies. When the people of the city heard the name of Mershili, they could not help trembling. These conquests showed the power of the Hittites and Mershili's leadership skills to the whole world. These conquests were not only military successes, they also consolidated the cultural and economic power of the Hittites. The wealth of cities like Babylon and Aleppo flowed into Hittite lands. However, the most important thing for Mershili was that these conquests made the Hittite kingdom known in a wider geography. The Hittites were now an important power, not only in Anatolia but also in Mesopotamia. These achievements paved the way for the future rise of the Hittite kingdom. By now, no one in Anatolia had heard of the Hittites. Neighboring kingdoms were afraid of Mershili's power and preferred to remain friends with him. However, Mershili's power was not limited to military conquests. He was also a master in the art of diplomacy. He established strategic alliances with neighboring kingdoms, thus securing the borders of the Hittite kingdom. During Mershili's reign, the Hittite kingdom started to progress towards becoming a great empire for the first time. The Hittites were no longer just a people, but a power. Mershili used this power wisely. He knew very well when to make war and when to make peace. That is why the Hittites achieved both military and diplomatic victories during his reign. This small kingdom that started in Anatolia was on the verge of becoming a great empire under the leadership of Mershili. Here, my dear friends, what Mershili did for the Hittites influenced the destiny not only of his own people but of all humanity. These conquests consolidated the power of the Hittites, strengthened their kingdom, and engraved them in the golden pages of history. Mershili's name, along with the Hittites, will continue to echo on every page of history. Because he was not just a king, he was a founder, a leader who shaped the destiny of a people in his hands. As we dive deeper into history and remember these great achievements of Mershili, we better understand what a far-sighted and powerful leader he was. This story is not only a part of the past, it is also an example that sheds light on the future. The memory of this leader, who changed the course of history as the Hittites took their first great steps, will never be erased. Ah yes, I will now take you back to the reign of one of the greatest leaders of the Hittites in history, Shuppiluliuma II, who transformed the Hittites from a kingdom into an empire. And behind this transformation lay Shuppiluliuma's decisive leadership, clever strategies, and unwavering determination. Let's take a look at that period through his eyes, through the eyes of a sage. As a young prince, Shuppiluliuma stood by his father Tudhaliya I and grew up in his shadow. But Shuppiluliuma was no ordinary prince. He was a leader with a vision to create the empire of the future. As his father grew old, hard times began for the Hittites. Neighboring kingdoms, thinking that the Hittites were weakening, started to attack and territorial losses were experienced. But Shuppiluliuma was determined to turn this situation around. When he took over the reign, he announced to the whole world that a new era had begun for the Hittites. Shuppiluliuma's mind was not only preoccupied with power and conquest. He also skillfully used diplomacy to resurrect the Hittites. First, he solved domestic problems. He suppressed rebellions, dismissed local rulers, whose loyalty he suspected and replaced them with trusted men. Then he made great moves in foreign policy. He strengthened his relations with Egypt, one of the Hittites' biggest rivals, through strategic marriages. This was not only a military alliance for the Hittites, it was also a diplomatic victory. However, Shupaluluma saw this relationship with Egypt as only a beginning. His real goal was to expand the Hittite Empire from Mesopotamia to Syria, and from there to every corner of Anatolia. When Shupaluluma set his eyes on the Syrian kingdom of Amurru, he was fascinated by its wealth and strategic importance. For the Hittites, conquering Amurru meant not only territorial gains but also access to Mediterranean trade routes. When Shupaluluma conquered Amurru, he not only conquered a kingdom but also extended Hittite power overseas. But Shupaluluma was not content with conquests alone. After annexing Amurru to Hittite territory, he blended this region with Hittite culture and administrative system. As a result, Amurru quickly became one of the most important provinces of the Hittite Empire. The victories in Syria made Shupaluluma an unstoppable force, but his sights were set even further afield. The fertile lands, rich cities, and strategic importance of Mesopotamia tempted Shupaluluma. Conquering these lands meant not only economic but also cultural enrichment for the Hittites. His first target in Mesopotamia was the Mitanni kingdom. Mitanni posed a great threat to the Hittites, but Shupaluluma devised an ingenious plan to eliminate this threat. He gathered his armies, moved towards Mitanni, and soon brought this powerful kingdom to its knees. By the time Mitanni came under Hittite rule, most of Mesopotamia was now part of the Hittite Empire. As for the conquests in Anatolia, this land was the heart and soul of the Hittites. Shupaluluma carefully managed his relations with the other kingdoms in Anatolia. He subjugated some kingdoms by force, others by alliance. In this way, Hittite influence was felt in every corner of Anatolia. As Shupaluluma conquered the cities of Anatolia one by one, the borders of the Hittite Empire expanded and expanded. But these conquests were not just military victories. By spreading Hittite culture and laws in these lands, Shupaluluma integrated the conquered peoples into the Hittite civilization. In this way, the Hittite Empire grew not only territorially but also culturally. Under the leadership of Shupaluluma the Hittite Empire reached the peak of its power. During his reign, the Hittites had established dominance not only in Anatolia but also in Mesopotamia and Syria. This expansion made the Hittites one of the greatest empires in history. Shupaluluma's great victories ushered in the golden age of the Hittite Empire. His vision was so great and influential that it left the Hittites with an indelible mark on the stage of history. My dear friends, this story is not just about the expansion of an empire, it is also a reflection of a leader's vision, perseverance, and determination. Shupaluluma's conquests not only expanded the borders of the Hittite Empire, but also brought peace, prosperity, and civilization to these lands. His name is etched in history along with the power of the Hittites, and the echo of these victories will continue to reverberate through the ages. Now I will take you to Hattusas, the heart of the Hittite Empire. This ancient city is also known as Bogazkoy, but we scholars always call it Hattusas, because we hear echoes of that ancient spirit in that name. Here is the story of this capital city that reflects the splendor of the Hittites. Hattusas is located in the center of Anatolia, on the borders of today's Qoram province. But this is no ordinary city. Hattusa is the administrative center, the soul and the brain of the Hittite Empire. The construction of this city is one of the biggest indicators of the Hittites' transformation from a mere tribal confederation to a real empire. Although it bears the traces of many civilizations that have lived on these lands, the first thing that comes to mind when we think of Hattusa is the power and glory of the Hittites. The construction of Hattusa was initiated by Hattusili, one of the rulers of that period. However, it gained its true splendor and greatness with the additions of later rulers. Hattusa was located in a naturally protected area. It was surrounded by steep cliffs, and this natural defense was like a fortress protecting the city against enemy attacks. But the Hittites were not content with these natural advantages. They built great fortifications to further strengthen the city and make it an unshakable fortress against their enemies. The walls of Hattusa were one of the engineering marvels of that period and showed how advanced a civilization the Hittites were. When we go beyond the walls of Hattusa, it is hard not to admire the inner structure of the city. Hattusa was not only an administrative center, but also the center of Hittite culture, religion, and art. The temples located inside the city show the Hittites' devotion to their gods. These temples were not only places of worship, but also places where people gathered, festivals were organized, and great ceremonies were held. The temples of Hattusa were magnificent structures, each dedicated to a different god and goddess. In particular, the Great Temple is located in the heart of the city and was dedicated to the storm god, the greatest god of the Hittites. Those who entered this temple felt the power of the god, prayed to him, and offered sacrifices. Another important structure of Hattusa is the king's palace. This palace stands like a crown at the highest point of the city. The king's palace was not only the residence of the Hittite ruler, but also the place where the empire was ruled. The rooms, meeting halls, and cellars inside the palace were frequented by messengers, merchants, and envoys from all over the empire. The decisions taken here determined the fate of the Hittite Empire. On the walls of the palace were reliefs and frescoes depicting the king's victories and his devotion to the gods. These works of art were not only ornaments but also important symbols of the king's power and the patronage of the gods. The streets of Hattusa were as remarkable as its walls and temples. The city was built according to a specific plan. The main streets were directly connected to the palaces and temples. Along these streets were lined the markets, the heart of trade, and the workshops of artisans. In the marketplaces of Hattusa, merchants from all over Anatolia would exhibit their products and negotiate with buyers. The Hittites' famous metalwork and ceramics also attracted great interest in these marketplaces. Hattusa was not only an administrative center, but also a vibrant commercial and cultural center. But the real magic of Hattusa was that it was not just a city, but a living organism. It is a treasure trove of Hittite spirit, faith, culture, and history. Every stone, every wall, every street of Hattusa bears witness to the past, achievements, and dreams of the Hittites. As a sage walking around this city, you feel the footsteps, prayers, joys, and sorrows of the people who lived here. Hattusa, the heart and soul of the Hittite Empire, has survived for thousands of years and continues to whisper to us today the stories of those ancient times. Ah, my dear friends, Hattusa is not just a city, it is the symbol of a civilization at its peak and its glory. This ancient capital is like a mirror reflecting the power, greatness, and cultural richness of the Hittite Empire. The story of Hattusa is indispensable for anyone who wants to understand the spirit and history of the Hittites. This is why we should see Hattusa not just as a city, but as the heart of a civilization. Although this city seems to be lost in the shadows of the past, it is actually still alive in the depths of our history and has many stories to tell us. Now I will take you to the heights of the Hittite Empire, to the depths of the era ruled by great kings and queens. This is a story from beyond the centuries, a period filled with splendor and power struggles. As we delve into the majestic and complex world of these ancient times, my aim is to reflect the essence of lived experiences with a narrative far beyond the pages of history books. The two great figures who determined the fate of the Hittite Empire were Suppiluliuma II and Mursili II. These two kings were the ones who took the Hittites to the peak of their power and transformed the empire into a significant military and diplomatic force. In their lives, their reigns, their wars, and their diplomatic relations form the foundation stones that shape the history of the Hittite Empire. In this journey, we will take a deep dive into their lives and policies. Listen to me, dear friends, for now we embark on a journey into the great victories and administrative strategies of Suppiluliuma II. Suppiluliuma II is remembered as one of the most influential rulers of the Hittite Empire. This wise king made many strategic moves to expand his dominion and transform the Hittites from a regional power into a great empire. When Suppiluliuma began his reign, the Hittite Empire faced numerous enemies. To the north, the Hatti kingdom; to the west, Phrygia; and to the east, Assyria were threatening the Hittite lands. Suppiluliuma drew attention with his military strategies, never ignoring these threats. Particularly, his relations and wars with the Hatti kingdom were crucial in protecting the Hittite Empire's eastern and western borders. Suppiluliuma solidified his dominion by achieving victories in campaigns against the Hatti kingdom and returning to Hattusa in triumph. In Suppiluliuma's reign, not only military successes but also diplomatic achievements were prominent. During this period, the Hittites established alliances with many neighboring kingdoms and strengthened diplomatic relations. Suppiluliuma experienced a significant turning point in his relations with Egypt. By making an agreement with the great Egyptian queen, Amenhotep IV, he ensured peace between the two empires and opened the way for mutual trade. This agreement further reinforced the Hittites' regional power and enhanced their prestige on the international stage. Now let us move on to the reign of Suppiluliuma's son, Mursili II. Mursili sought to expand and strengthen the Hittite Empire based on the strong foundations laid by his father. However, during Mursili's reign, he had to deal with internal wars and succession disputes as well as continuing his father's victories. During Mursili's reign, there were significant internal upheavals in the Hittite capital, Hattusa. The king had to deal with rebellions and succession conflicts throughout the country. Civil wars and political strife threatened the unity within the Hittite Empire. Mursili developed many strategies to control these internal disturbances and stabilize the country. To protect his and his father's legacy, he established a strong army and centralized administration. Now, dear friends, let us focus on the great wars and diplomatic relations of the Hittites. During both Suppiluliuma II's and Mursili II's reigns, the military strategies and diplomatic maneuvers of the Hittites ensured the expansion and influence of the empire. The military victories and diplomatic successes of these two rulers helped make the Hittite Empire one of the most powerful states in the region. Especially the great campaigns initiated by Suppiluliuma II and continued by Mursili II expanded the Hittites' borders. Suppiluliuma's campaigns against Egypt and the Hatti kingdom strengthened the Hittite Empire's power and achieved regional dominance. During Mursili's reign, the expanding territories in Assyria and Mesopotamia further increased the Hittite Empire's sovereignty. In diplomatic relations, the alliances formed with regional powers increased the empire's international prestige. Particularly, agreements and trade relations with Egypt enhanced the Hittites' economic and strategic power. These diplomatic successes ensured the Hittite Empire's recognition and influence on the international stage. Dear friends, the two great rulers of the Hittite Empire left deep marks in history, not only with their military and diplomatic strategies, but also with their internal policies. The foundations laid by Suppiluliuma II and the administration continued by Mursili II ensured the Hittite Empire's power and influence. The stories of these great leaders offer us unforgettable lessons from the depths of history. Dear friends, now I will take you into the depths of the Hittite Empire's justice and social structure, to the wisdom of ancient times and the fascinating details of their legal system. The information that has reached us from the dusty pages of history reveals how a once great civilization operated, how its people lived, and how justice was administered. Let us explore this ancient world together and uncover the subtle connections between Hittite legal codes and social regulations. Once, far away within the massive walls of Hattusa, the concept of justice shaped by the great Hittite kings was evolving. The Hittite legal system was not just a collection of laws, but a product of profound reasoning that reflected the way of life and values of the society. The Hittite legal codes illustrate how this ancient society lived in an orderly manner and how justice was maintained. The Hittite legal code was one of the most comprehensive and detailed legal documents of its time. This code played a crucial role in maintaining social order and ensuring justice. It contained laws on a wide range of topics including crimes, penalties, property rights, family relations, and trade. When you study the code, you can see the Hittites' effort to balance crime and punishment. For instance, the penalties set for crimes such as theft and fraud were aimed at protecting society and deterring offenders. In the Hittite legal code, you can also observe the use of monetary compensation methods alongside physical punishments. This indicates that in the administration of justice, not only physical penalties but also economic fines were important. Harsh penalties such as imprisonment and slavery were methods used to maintain justice in society, but the details of when and how these penalties were applied were thoroughly outlined in the legal code. From the magnificent palaces of Hattusa to the vibrant markets of the city, we must take a deep look at the social regulations to understand the structure of Hittite society. The Hittite society had a complex and organized structure, encompassing a wide range of social layers from the royal family to ordinary citizens. In Hittite society, kings and queens held the highest social status. Around them were nobles and high-ranking officials who played significant roles in the kingdom's administration and the maintenance of social order. The lands and properties owned by the kings and nobles greatly influenced the economic and social structure of the society. Another important layer of society consisted of priests and religious leaders. The Hittites placed great importance on their religious beliefs, and religious leaders guided the spiritual aspects of the society. Temples were an integral part of daily life for priests and the public. Religious ceremonies and rituals were an inseparable part of social life. The middle class was composed of artisans, merchants, and farmers. This group carried out the economic activities of the society and played a crucial role in the daily functioning of the city. Artisans met the various needs of the cities, merchants conducted local and international trade, and farmers provided sustenance through agriculture and livestock, meeting the food needs of the cities. Now, dear friends, let us delve a bit deeper to understand how law and social structure intertwined and how the Hittites created a holistic system with these two important elements. The Hittite legal code regulated not only crimes and penalties but also social relationships and economic activities. The order of society was shaped as a reflection of the understanding of justice. For example, the Hittite laws regarding property rights detailed property ownership and inheritance issues. These regulations aimed to balance relationships between social classes and address economic inequalities. Similarly, family relations and marriage laws served to preserve and regulate social norms. Through these legal codes and social regulations, the Hittites placed great importance on both the administration of justice and the preservation of social order. In ensuring justice, both the legal codes and social structure and relationships played a significant role. Dear friends, the Hittite legal system and social structure provide us with crucial insights into the complex and rich world of an ancient civilization. On this historical journey, learning about the Hittites' understanding of justice and social regulations offers us an opportunity to explore not only ancient times but also the depths of human history. Now, with this knowledge, we will continue moving forward to explore other great milestones in history. Dear friends, now I will take you into the depths of Hittite society, its social structure, and the dynamics of its community. The world of the Hittites once harbored a complex and rich social structure of a vast kingdom. Here we will thoroughly examine everything from the grandeur of the royal family to the power of the military class, the daily life of the civil society, and the roles of women within this cosmic order. Prepare yourselves, for you are about to step into these fascinating layers of history. Once, behind the massive walls of Hattusa, There was a world shaped by various layers of social structure. Hittite society was characterized by a meticulously organized hierarchy. This society had three main classes: the royalty, the military class, and the civil class. Each class played a significant role in the functioning of the social order. Hittite society revolved around kings and queens. The royal family held both political and religious leadership positions. Kings, as the highest authorities of the state, managed all affairs of the country, waged wars, and negotiated peace treaties. Queens, on the other hand, played important roles in the spiritual and sometimes political affairs of the kingdom. They were advisors to the king, overseers of the kingdom's social order, and sometimes influential figures in war strategies. Members of the royal family had a significant impact both in administration and social order. Palaces hosted grand assemblies, religious ceremonies, and national events. The famous Hattusa Palace, favored by the royal family, reflected this grandeur with its magnificent structures and vast spaces. In these splendid palaces, both daily life and state matters were discussed. The Hittite military class was responsible for ensuring the kingdom's security and protecting its lands. Soldiers represented the kingdom's greatest power in wars. The Hittite army was disciplined and strategic, with well-equipped and trained warriors. Military equipment, siege machines, and strategic plans were in the hands of this class. The military class gained great prestige during wars. The success of soldiers brought societal respect and praise. Their struggles reinforced the kingdom's strength and ensured defense against external threats. These soldiers played crucial roles not only in battle but also in the protection of border regions and maintenance of internal order. The civil class constituted the broad masses of Hittite society. Artisans, merchants, farmers, and other civil citizens were responsible for the daily functioning of the cities. This group directed the economic and social dynamics of society. Artisans showcased their skills in various crafts, while merchants engaged in local and international trade. Farmers, on the other hand, worked in agriculture and livestock, meeting the food needs of the cities. The civil class formed the economic backbone of society. Artisans produced handmade goods, textiles, and other daily necessities. Merchants supported economic growth through trade. Farmers ensured the community's sustenance through agriculture and livestock. The daily lives of this group significantly influenced the dynamics of the cities and social order. Dear listeners, let us now step into the world of women, an important part of Hittite society. Women played significant and diverse roles within the Hittite social structure. Their place in society has changed throughout history, but always had a distinct impact. Women in Hittite society took on both familial and social roles. In family structure, women were typically responsible for household chores and also for the education and care of family members. However, their roles were not limited to the household. Women in Hittite society could also take on certain social and religious duties. Women in the royal family generally held high social status and participated in important religious ceremonies. Queens took on religious leadership and social regulation duties. Additionally, royal women could also be influential in diplomatic relations, sometimes representing the country in international affairs. The life of these women in the palace was an important part of social order and cultural rituals. In civil society, women's roles were more diverse. Craftswomen handled handicrafts and textile production, while some women were involved in trade. In the Hittite world, women had property rights, which strengthened their economic independence and social positions. Women could also serve as priestesses in religious ceremonies and temples, playing an active role in social life. The multifaceted roles of women in social life demonstrate the complexity and diversity of the Hittite social structure. Their positions in society were not confined to family roles but extended to social, economic, and religious spheres. Dear friends, the social structure of the Hittite society and the role of women offer important insights that extend from the depths of history to the present day. By examining this information, you can better understand how an ancient civilization lived in order and how its social structure functioned. As we navigate these depths of history, understanding the lifestyle and societal structures of the Hittites provides us with valuable lessons about both the past and the history of humanity. Ah, dear friends, now I will tell you about one of the deepest secrets of ancient times, the world of the Hittite gods and their influences on life. The Hittites were known for their deep reverence for their gods, and this belief led to a series of complex rituals and temple structures that affected every aspect of their social life. It is an honor to share these ancient insights from the depths of history. So let us take a look at the Hittite pantheon and the world of their temples. Once, in the vast lands of Anatolia, there existed a world where gods were believed to be present in every corner. The Hittite pantheon was quite complex and polytheistic, with each god and goddess ruling over their domain, influencing various natural phenomena, social order, and personal lives. At the center of the Hittite pantheon was Teshub, considered the chief god. Teshub was the storm and sky god, and his power was of great importance in the Hittites' wars and agricultural activities. The rain and thunder he provided were symbols of fertility and the productivity of the land. Teshub's wife, Hepat, was regarded as the goddess of the earth and fertility. Hepat represented the cycles of nature and the abundance of agricultural products, and she was also the guardian of family life. Another significant deity was Irina, the sun goddess. Irina was one of the most sacred goddesses of the Hittites, representing the warmth, light, and life-giving power of the sun. Her worship rituals were organized at specific times of the day to thank the sun. Another important god was Kumarbi, the underworld deity associated with underground riches, minerals, and death. Kumarbi was the guardian of the afterlife and the secrets of the otherworld. The multifaceted nature of the gods was felt in every aspect of the Hittites' daily lives. The Hittites showed great respect to the gods and performed various rituals to protect themselves from their caprices. Each god represented different aspects of social life, and therefore worshipping them was central to both individual and communal rituals. Each god had its own place of worship and festival times. The religious life of the Hittites was shaped around large temples and sacred areas. Temples were not only places of worship but also centers of the community's social and cultural life. These temples were representations of the gods on earth and were considered sacred by the Hittites. The capital of the Hittites, Hattusa, hosted many temple structures. The most important of these temples was the temple of the sun goddess Irina. This massive structure was dedicated to the sun goddess and was the center of Hittite religious beliefs and rituals. The temple had a large courtyard where various religious ceremonies, especially sun-related rituals, were held. Another important temple was the temple of Kumarbi. This temple was dedicated to Kumarbi, the underworld god, and rituals related to death and the underworld were performed here. The temple of Kumarbi was considered a gateway to the underworld, and it was believed that the god ruled over the riches of the earth. The religious rituals of the Hittites were an inseparable part of their daily lives. Rituals were typically conducted on the special days of the gods or during seasonal changes. These ceremonies were organized to reinforce the unity and cohesion of the community. Festival areas were where large ceremonies and festivals took place. Particularly, the large temple complexes of Hattusa were major centers for such festivals. On festival days, offerings were made to the gods, grand feasts were organized, and various dances and music performances were held. These events expressed both devotion and respect for the gods and the community. Moreover, festival areas were places where social interactions and communal bonds were strengthened. Dear friends, the world of the Hittite gods and their religious rituals were integral parts of their daily lives and social order. Exploring these ancient insights provides important clues about the depths of the past and helps us better understand this magnificent civilization in human history. As we continue our journey into these depths of history, you will see more closely how rich and diverse the Hittite spiritual world and their beliefs were. Ah, dear friends, now I will present to you one of the most important and mysterious aspects of the Hittite civilization, their writing system. The written expressions and linguistic structures of the Hittites are keys to both our historical knowledge and the complexity of this ancient civilization. This journey into the secrets of Hittite cuneiform, the structure of the Hittite language, and archaeological findings of written documents will take us deep into the ancient world. So let us gather these insights from the dusty shelves of time and explore the writing and linguistic world of the Hittites. Listen closely as we delve into the depths of ancient times. The way the Hittites expressed themselves and recorded their history was shaped by the elegant symbols of cuneiform writing. This writing system took shape in the depths of Anatolia in the 2nd millennium BCE, on stone tablets and clay slabs. Hittite cuneiform was a writing system derived from Mesopotamian cuneiform. It involved marks inscribed with a sharp tool on flattened clay tablets. Hittite cuneiform used various symbols and signs to represent words and ideas. Each mark could represent a phony, a syllable, or a word itself. This system was known for its complexity and versatility, as many signs could carry different meanings depending on the context. It is important to note that Hittite cuneiform was used primarily in diplomatic and official documents. Royal decrees, legal texts, trade agreements, and historical records were written in this script. Written documents played a crucial role in relations with both internal and external worlds and were key to understanding the Hittites' social and political structure. The decipherment of Hittite cuneiform was a long and challenging process for historians and linguists. Understanding the script began in the 19th century and saw significant progress. In particular, advancements made in deciphering Hittite written documents in 1915 created great excitement in the scientific community. The decipherment of Hittite cuneiform was achieved with contributions from many scholars, and comparing similar writing systems and analyzing specific patterns in cuneiform played a major role in this process. Dear friends, the world of the Hittite language was one of the cornerstones of this civilization's cultural and social structure. Hittite was an Indo-European language and had interesting grammatical features. Hittite, known especially as the language of ancient Anatolia, had a complex grammatical structure. One of the key features of Hittite was the various affixes added to the roots of nouns and verbs. These affixes expressed linguistic elements such as time, place, and personal relationships. Hittite had a rich system of noun and verb inflections. Nouns could show gender distinctions, while verbs could express tense and mood differences. For example, past, present, and future tenses were expressed with specific affixes in Hittite. Hittite also included many written documents and texts that show how the language was used in various social and cultural contexts. The building blocks of this language were evident in both daily life and official documents. Written texts in Hittite provide insight into social structures and cultural values. The written documents of the Hittites offer an important window into the history of this ancient civilization. These documents help us understand both royal authority and social order. Hittite royal documents included royal decrees, diplomatic correspondence, and war reports. These documents were typically written on large stone tablets and clay slabs. Royal documents played an important role in the Hittites' international relations and internal administration. Through these documents, it is possible to gain information about the Hittites' diplomatic relations and war strategies. Hittite legal codes and legal texts defined the legal order and social rules of Hittite society. These texts contained rules regarding crimes and punishments, property rights, and social relationships. Legal texts help us understand the Hittite social structure and sense of justice. They provide important information about how social order was maintained and individual rights. Archaeologists have made significant progress in deciphering Hittite cuneiform and understanding the Hittite language. These findings include written tablets and stone slabs excavated from ancient Hittite cities and temples. These documents provide comprehensive information about Hittite daily life, administrative structures, and social order. Archaeological findings offer a deep perspective on the Hittites' past and serve as an important resource for historians. Dear friends, the Hittites' writing system, linguistic structure, and written documents shed light on the rich and complex world of this ancient civilization. Deciphering the secrets of Hittite cuneiform and language allows us to gain valuable insights into the depths of the past. In our journey through these historical corners, exploring the written heritage and linguistic richness of the Hittites helps us understand how ancient civilizations were structured and how social life was shaped. Once upon a time, in the 13th century BCE, we witness a significant diplomatic era between two great powers of Asia and Africa, the Hittites and the Egyptians. During this period, the efforts to establish a balance between these two great empires represented a crucial phase in both regional and international relations. Let us first delve into the roots of this relationship between the Hittites and the Egyptians. The relations between the Hittite Emperor Murshili III and the famous Egyptian pharaoh Ramses II consisted of both military conflicts and diplomatic agreements. These two great powers occasionally engaged in warfare, but also sought to maintain regional stability through peace treaties. The Battle of Kadesh is a crucial turning point in these relations. This major battle, which took place in 1274 BCE, was not merely a large-scale conflict between the Hittites and the Egyptians. Both sides viewed the battle as an opportunity to prove their victories and strategic superiority. The battle spread across a vast area and resulted in significant losses for both parties. However, realizing that neither side could continue the war, peace negotiations began. The peace treaty is considered one of the earliest known international agreements in history. This treaty became a contract where both sides pledged to maintain their territorial integrity and sovereignty while continuing their relations through trade and diplomacy. Known as the Treaty of Kadesh, this agreement not only ended the wars but also laid the groundwork for friendly relations between the two great empires. Now let us turn our attention to the depths of Asia, to Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia is a significant geographical point in the history of the Hittites, and their interactions with this region offer another important narrative that deepens our understanding of Hittite power and strategy. The Hittites maintained their interactions with Mesopotamia primarily through relations with Babylon and Assyria. Babylon was a kingdom located on the eastern borders of the Hittites and had a rich cultural heritage. The relations between Babylon and the Hittites evolved over time through trade and diplomatic agreements. The great kings of Babylon often focused on commercial and cultural exchanges in their relations with the Hittites. These interactions paved the way for numerous trade agreements and cultural exchanges between these two great civilizations. On the other hand, Assyria, located in northern Mesopotamia, was known for its military and diplomatic power. Relations between Assyria and the Hittites were more complex. The powerful military strategies of Assyria constantly posed a threat to the Hittites. However, Assyrian kings occasionally established diplomatic relations and negotiated agreements with the Hittites, attempting to reduce tensions between the two powers. Let us now focus on two significant kingdoms in western Anatolia, Hatti and Arzawa. The relations between the Hittites and these two kingdoms were dynamic in terms of both military conflicts and diplomatic agreements. The Hatti kingdom was a powerful rival during the early period of the Hittites. The territories of Hatti were strategically important to the Hittites, and their relations frequently escalated into wars. The resistance of Hatti constantly tested the military strategies of the Hittites and led to the development of their military capabilities. After wars with Hatti, peace treaties helped balance relations between the two parties. This peace process began during a period when Hatti was preoccupied with internal issues and laid the groundwork for more stable relations between the two kingdoms. The Arzawa kingdom was an important neighbor to the west of the Hittites. Relations between the Hittites and Arzawa were shaped by wars and diplomatic maneuvers. The resistance of Arzawa led the Hittites to conduct military campaigns to protect their western borders. However, over time, peace treaties and diplomatic relations between the two kingdoms created a more harmonious relationship environment. These treaties facilitated mutual trade and security measures, resulting in more balanced and stable relations between the two kingdoms. Thus, dear friends, we have examined in detail the relations between the Hittites and the Egyptian, Mesopotamian, Hatti, and Arzawa kingdoms. These relationships illustrate how the Hittites shaped regional power balances and made significant strategic moves in the depths of history. Each relationship serves as an important example for understanding how the Hittites achieved their strategic goals in the region and influenced international diplomacy. Once upon a time, one of the great empires of Asia, the Hittite Empire, faced both internal turmoil and external attacks. I want to focus on this challenging period for the Hittites, particularly the death of King Murshili III and the ensuing chaos. Murshili I I was recognized as one of the most powerful and influential kings of the Hittite Empire. However, leading a great empire came with not only victories and prosperity but also immense responsibilities and dangers. The death of Mershili I created significant uncertainty about the future of the empire. With the king's death, succession struggles and internal conflicts began among those who would take over the government. These internal disturbances weakened the central authority of the empire, leading to the empowerment of regional governors and princes. The resulting chaos in the Hittite government opened the door to a series of civil wars and political instability. Additionally, external threats became a major concern during this period. Other major powers surrounding the Hittite Empire took advantage of this internal turmoil to launch attacks on Hittite territories. Great civilizations like Assyria, Babylon, and Egypt began military operations against the weakening Hittite defenses. These external attacks added a new dimension to the already complex internal problems of the Hittite Empire. Dear friends, to develop a deep understanding of the empire's collapse, we need to closely examine the causes behind this dark period. The fall of the Hittite Empire was due not only to internal and external conflicts, but also to environmental and economic factors. Climate changes were one of the most significant reasons for this period. During the Hittite era, climatic changes directly affected the productivity of agricultural crops. Prolonged droughts and climate changes reduced agricultural productivity, leading to famine and economic difficulties. In a period where agriculture was one of the main economic activities, ecosystem degradation deeply affected the overall welfare of the empire. Economic problems played a crucial role in the empire's collapse. In addition to civil wars and political conflicts, the decline in the security of trade routes and a drop in tax revenues weakened the state's financial situation. These economic troubles further complicated the government's ability to manage military expenses and address internal issues. Civil wars were another significant factor contributing to the collapse of the Hittite Empire. The succession struggles that began with Mershili I's death shook the entire country. The infighting within the royal family led to major political chaos. Regional governors and princes saw this turmoil as an opportunity to enhance their own power. These civil wars further weakened the authority of the central government and accelerated the empire's downfall. And thus, the collapse of the Hittite Empire fundamentally altered the balance of power in the region. After the empire's destruction, new power balances emerged in Anatolia and its surrounding territories. The collapse of the Hittites led to the rise of various civilizations and kingdoms to fill the void left by the empire. This collapse resulted in the formation of new power centers in the former Hittite territories. Other great civilizations in the region quickly filled the void left by the Hittites. Syria and Babylon increased their power in the regions where the Hittites had weakened, solidifying their dominance. At the same time, new small kingdoms and principalities emerged in different regions of Anatolia. These new political entities inherited the legacy of the Hittites and reshaped the political and cultural landscape of the region. In conclusion, the collapse of the Hittite Empire signaled not only the end of an empire but also the reshaping of regional history. The dark period of the Hittites offers many lessons and insights throughout history. The empire's downfall is closely related to not only military and political factors, but also environmental and economic challenges. Dear viewers, our deep journey through history has led us to the traces of a great civilization that once ruled in the heart of Anatolia. We have examined every stage of the Hittite Empire, from its magnificent victories to its internal conflicts, external attacks, and eventual collapse. Now, as we close this historical adventure, it's time to draw some important conclusions from our experience. The rise and fall of the Hittite Empire have once again shown us how complex and multi-layered history can be. From King Mershili III's brave leadership, to Suppiluliuma's strategic expansions, the grand structures of Hattusa, and the internal conflicts and external pressures in the final years of the empire, each detail has revealed both the grandeur and the weaknesses of the Hittites. I believe this long and rich history has provided us not only with historical knowledge but also with profound reflections on the complexity and variability of life. The collapse of the Hittite Empire marked a turning point that changed the course of history. However, understanding the reasons and impacts behind this collapse reminds us that history is not just a series of events, but a process that must be considered as a whole. The historical process involving climate changes, economic difficulties, internal conflicts, and external attacks shows us that every event has many facets and consequences. The legacy of the Hittites has been shaped by the influence of many different civilizations throughout history. Their traces have played a significant role not only in archaeological findings but also in the cultural and political development of the region. The story of the Hittites reminds us of the cyclical nature of great civilizations rising and falling, and how rich and diverse our shared human history is. Dear friends, as we reach the end of our historical narratives, I hope that this knowledge has provided not just a history lesson, but also a deep understanding of the complexity of life. Each story is a message passed down from the depths of the past, and understanding these messages helps us not only open the doors of history, but also develop a more enlightening perspective for the future. Now I offer my heartfelt thanks for joining us on this historical journey. I am grateful for the opportunity to delve into the depths of the Hittite Empire with you. In the light of this wisdom, we can seize the learning opportunities that each new day offers us without getting lost in the dark corners of history. I wish you peace until we meet again in our next exploration of another historical story. This journey from the depths of the past to the present will always inspire us to understand the past and offer hope for the future. Let us continue to walk in the footsteps of history together and nourish our souls with each new piece of knowledge. Farewell, dear friends. I look forward to meeting you in our next historical adventure.